Hey everyone, thank you so much for clicking on my channel. I'm going to be doing a review and a demo of the MAC Studio Fix Powder Foundation. I picked this up last week when I was on vacation down in Albuquerque, and they had a MAC store, so I went in there and let them kind of just play with makeup on my face. And I had mentioned that I was interested in trying a powder foundation. Up until this past week, I had never tried a powder foundation before. They're supposed to be really great for combination to oily skin, which is me. I have combination skin. I never wore this foundation for a full 8 hours while I was in Albuquerque. Plus, the climate there is very different. It's very dry, it's very arid. So I was curious to see how this would wear for a full 8 hours in the Michigan climate here, which is a lot more humid. I'm gonna read off of their website some of the claims, the description. So the Studio Fix Powder Plus Foundation, it has like 50 shades, so that's a huge color range. You're basically gonna be able to find your color. It is only 0.52 ounces, so you get about half the amount that you would with a regular liquid foundation, which would be the full fluid ounce. So you do get less product overall. One compact is $28. The description is that it's a one-step powder and foundation that gives skin a smooth, flawless, all matte finish with medium to full coverage. Long wearing, velvety texture allows skin to breathe, and it's available in a wide range of colors. The key claims and benefits is that it's long wearing, 8 hours. I don't know, I would think that 12 hours would be a long wearing foundation. 8 hours to me is just like a normal foundation. Reduces the appearance of pores. It controls oil and shine. It's non-drying for all skin types, but especially oily skin. And it provides stay true color. It also says that it's non-streaking, it's non-caking, it's non-settling, and it's photo friendly. So to apply, it says apply to skin using a sponge or desired brush, blend with fingers, sponge, or brush. So if you would like to see me review and demo the MAC Studio Fix Powder Foundation, then you're in the right place. Please keep on watching. Well, I've already washed, moisturized, and primed my face. And for primer, I just use the MAC Fix Plus, their Prep and Prime spray, because that is what the makeup artist at MAC used on me. So I'm just gonna use what I was told to use with the foundation. So I just sprayed that all over my face after I washed and moisturized. I'm going to use 2 different brushes to apply this. This one is by Wet n Wild, and it's a synthetic flat top brush. And this one is by Morphe, and it's a natural bristle brush. So I'm kind of curious to see how the foundation applies with a synthetic versus a natural haired brush. Plus this one's a little more dense and this one's a little bit fluffier, so I'm curious if the dense brush is going to give me more coverage versus the lighter fluffier brush. When I got my makeup done at the MAC store, the makeup artist put the powder foundation on first, and then he put concealer on top of that. And quite honestly, that was just a big, cakey, creasy mess under my eyes. So I am gonna apply concealer first to my under eye area and set it with a powder before going over it with a powder foundation. So now that I have my concealer under my eyes, I'm just gonna set it really quickly using my RCMA powder. And this is gonna keep it from moving while I put the powder foundation over top of it, but it's also gonna help the powder to blend out better. Well, I'm gonna start with the Wet n Wild brush first. I'm gonna do this half of my face with this brush, and then I'll do the other half of my face with this brush, just to kind of compare and see what type of brush I like to apply it with. So I'm just gonna kind of like swirl it in here and tap off the excess and just kind of go right in. And then I can go right over that area that I already powdered, because it's just gonna blend out really nicely, and plus it'll give me a little extra coverage there. So with the powder foundation, I feel like it's hard to tell like that it's going on, but when I'm kind of looking at my face, like just doing half of it, I can definitely see the difference. So this really is more of a light coverage. I definitely would not call this full coverage by any means. I would say it's a light medium coverage because it is covering the redness on my face, but it's not covering my freckles, and it's not fully covering my blemishes, but it is correcting color. Like the redness around my nose, you can see it on this side in some of my splotchy areas, but you can't see it on this side. It's super lightweight, like it doesn't feel like I have anything on my face. It's also not transferring. It looks really pretty. Like the finish is so velvety. It's matte. It's a matte finish. It looks super smooth. I think that if you had like pretty clear skin, this would look really, really flawless. Like the finish of it looks really flawless, even though you can still see like my skin through it. So I'm gonna go in with this other brush here, this Morphe brush. Just kind of swirl it around in there. This reminds me more of the brush that he used at the MAC store to apply my foundation with. But he was using a MAC brush. I don't remember which one it was. And I'm using a pretty light hand when I apply this. I think it's applying about the same. I might have gotten like a tiny bit more coverage on this side. And then I'm getting with this brush. This is like where my bad breakout is right now, so I kind of want to see how this does with covering that spot. So I do think I got a little more coverage using this more dense brush. So I do want a little bit more coverage on this area and around my nose a little bit. So I'm going to go back in with this brush on those spots. It did a pretty good job covering that blemish area up here. There's still a tiny bit of redness coming through there, so I couldn't call this a full coverage foundation, but the finish is really, really beautiful, like velvet matte, which I tend to like a matte finish, so I think because I have combination skin and my oils can just make me look shiny in not a good way, so this is a really, really pretty finish. It's not clinging to any dry spots. I kind of have had like a dry thing going on the sides of my nose, and it's not clinging to that or looking patchy anywhere. I think it applied really evenly. It's not settling into any of my lines around my mouth. That's usually a problem that I have. Between my forehead, it's not settling anywhere yet. So I'm going to go ahead and apply the rest of my makeup off camera. It is 2:29, so we'll call the check-in time 2:30. I want to make sure that I wear this for a full 8 hours, and I'll check in about halfway through, maybe in 4 or 5 hours. So I'm going to go ahead and just do my bronzer and blush and highlight, and maybe I'll do some lips, I don't know, and I will be right back. Okay, so I have finished the rest of my makeup. It is now 3:08. It didn't actually take me that long to just put the rest of my face makeup on, but got a little distracted. So this foundation has been on for about 40 minutes now. Everything blended over it very easily. Obviously I was putting powder on top of powder, so my bronzer, blush, highlight, all of that blended very easily, didn't have to work for it. It didn't move the foundation underneath as I was applying my bronzer and blush, so that's always a plus. And so for 40 minutes in, it still pretty much looks the same as it did when I first applied it. It is settling just a tiny bit into my smile lines, which is pretty typical. I've been having a major problem with that lately with all foundations settling into my smile lines, but it's not anything significant at this point, so I'm kind of curious to see how that does throughout the day. But so far I'm really impressed with this foundation. I think it looks so beautiful and flawless while still being very lightweight and light to medium coverage. I'm going to check back in with you guys a little bit later today in natural lighting so you can kind of see what this looks like in natural lighting, and then I'll check in with you guys probably before I go to bed as well so that you can kind of see how it's worn throughout the day and if it still looks this good after 8 hours. So yeah, I'll see you guys in a little bit. It is now 6:16, so we'll call the second check-in time 6:15. So I've had this foundation on for about 4 hours and I still think it's looking pretty good. It's looking a lot more dewy and fresh than it was when I first put it on. It was very matte, but this is looking very fresh. Sorry if you can hear my children behind me, that's just life. I don't think it's looking oily, it just looks very like fresh, it looks very skin-like. In this lighting, my bronzer looks very warm, which is interesting. Everything still looks really good. I actually like the way it's kind of like mixed with my oil a little bit because it does look just very fresh and very skin-like. It hasn't started to like separate anywhere, which is a big pet peeve of mine, but it has very slightly started to settle into my smile lines, but not really much more than it did like after that first 40 minutes after I put it on when I was filming earlier. So that's a big plus for me that that hasn't gotten worse. I also haven't like lost any coverage anywhere, even though I've had dinner, I've been like picking up my kids and they, you know, touch my face, and my bronzer and blush have stayed on really well. Nothing has faded whatsoever. So far I'm really liking this. I just think it looks really nice and really natural and just super pretty. So I'm gonna check in with you guys in probably another 4 hours, probably like right before I go to bed, and just let you know how it holds up the rest of the day. Okay, so I'm now recording this last bit on my phone here. It is 10:20 p.m. So this foundation has been on for 8 hours. I'm gonna pull my mirror up here so I can kind of tell you my thoughts. I do think that my oil has come through, like, but I don't think it's anything like crazy. I think if I had touched up a little bit throughout the day, like just a blotting paper, it would be perfectly fine. But it hasn't gotten cakey at all. Like, I don't know if you can see, like around my nose, between my eyes. It's definitely more shiny than it was at the beginning of the day, but it has not caked up at all. I would say the only downfall to this foundation is that it's not as full coverage as I'm used to. The claims said that it's a medium to full coverage foundation, but it's definitely a light to medium coverage. You can still see like everything coming through, but it just makes it makes your skin look like your skin, but better, like more beautiful, like it just evens out your skin tone. And it gives it a really pretty finish, which I think that as the day goes on and it kind of sets into your skin a little bit, it looks more fresh and it looks a little bit more glowy, which I think is really pretty. I think I'm gonna try like a mattifying primer right in the center of my face and just see if it does completely control my oils. One of the other things I didn't say earlier is that I set my face with the MAC Fix Plus, and sometimes setting sprays can make me look more oily than I typically would be. So I think I'm going to keep playing with this and use different primers and maybe not use the setting spray with it and see how it looks. My smile lines, it's settled like initially, but it hasn't gotten worse at all throughout the day, and that's really important to me. Sometimes I have foundations that just as the day goes on, really settles and cakes up into those smile lines. Like by the end of the day, it's really, really bad. So, but my bronzer is still on there. My blush is still on there. Well, maybe not my blush so much, but my bronzer and my highlight have stayed really well. None of that has faded at all. I like this foundation. I'm really glad that I bought it, and I'm gonna keep wearing it. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I'm really thinking about doing a weekly like Foundation Friday video where I test out and review and demo a new foundation every Friday. So if that's something that you want to see, please let me know in the comments section down below. I really would love to hear what you guys want to see. So thanks so much for hanging out with me today. If you liked this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I love you all so much, and I'll see you soon.